Ladies and gentlemen, we are live on the Metropolitan Report Live. Uh, Glad to see you guys back. It is the first episode of our spring training coverage here. We're in prime time. It's 8:09 p.m. Eastern time here on Monday, February 23rd, and the Mets are in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Grapefruit League action has commenced. The Mets have played 3 spring training games so far in 2026. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about different combinations of of guys to get on the roster. So we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. Who's likely to break camp? Who's likely not to break camp? Things we like, things we didn't like. So absolutely, we are here, and yeah, spring training along the way. We've got new additions on the team that we've covered in off-season news: Marcus Simeon, Bo Bichette, Freddie Peralta. Um, and the team had a major shakeup this past offseason, thanks to David Stearns and Steve Cohen, and we'll talk about things that they have said since spring training has broke here. So a lot to unpack here on this prime time Metropolitan Report edition. Again, we're covering spring training. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are here late night. Well, not late night, but here and again, primetime hours, especially here in New York City where it is snowed in. If you're on the Northeast and you've had the blizzard, Drew learned, my good friend LGM. Drew, good to have you with us. And of course, if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, you can put a comment below. I'll be answering all your questions. So anything that you feel the need to share, as long as you are appropriate and not typing anything crazy, we are going to discuss whatever you guys want to chime in about. So again, I am Alfred Parsar Jr. This is Metropolitan Report Live. Spring training is upon us. So before we get to the actual games and the actual coverage here, I want to get to several key storylines in camp so far this season. The first being that, of course, Francisco Lindor, we covered it on a reel on our YouTube and Instagram page. Francisco Lindor, it's again, he was supposed to play in the World Baseball Classic coming up. He's not going to be in the World Baseball Classic due to off-season elbow surgery. Now we find out he has a broken hamate bone. For those of you who don't know what the hamate bone is, it's right here in your hand, this here. That's broken. He's going to miss the entire spring. So David Stearns did say that Lindor will be ready to go by opening day, which is March 26th. Again, opening day in Flushing. The Mets have opening day at home for the first time in a couple seasons. Last time they had a true opening day at home and not just a home opener was in 2024 when they had an opening series to the Brewers in that magical season that started off on the wrong foot. But again, March 26th, the Mets host the Pirates at Citi Field. The Mets anticipate that Francisco Lindor will be ready for opening day. But if Lindor is not ready for opening day, let's say he has a setback, something goes wrong, the Mets, of course, have to look to other options. And what better way to evaluate other options than in Grapefruit League action? We have another comment here. Oh, yeah. Drew says the hamate bone is what messed up Francisco Alvarez, and that is true. So other Mets have suffered from it in the past. It's a bit of an epidemic right now in MLB with the hamate bone. The hamate bone also affecting Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's missing time. But again, like I was saying, the Mets have to evaluate who the other options could be should Lindor have a setback or some freak accident happens where he's not ready for opening day. And those are Ronnie Mauricio and Vidal Brujan. Of course, we all know Ronnie Mauricio. Ronnie Mauricio's been with the club ever since 2023, as when he initially got his first call up. So Mauricio, of course, like Lindor, a switch-hitting power shortstop, although we've seen the power zapped in the last couple seasons. And Vidal Brujan, for those of you who don't know, he's a utility guy who can play short. He's also played third base and second base in his major league career. Um, so this is the first position battle we're going to talk about here. Who the backup shortstop is going to be? Of course, Ronnie Mauricio, bit of a prize guy, if you will, a commodity that David Stearns kept. Now, remember, in the Luis Robert Jr. trade, when Luis Robert went over from the White Sox to the Mets, Stearns had a decision to make. Which one do I give up? Which young infielder do I give up? Mauricio or Acuna? He went up. He went out and gave up Luis Angel Acuna and kept Ronnie Mauricio. So there must be a reason for it. Of course, both these guys on the 40-man roster, but only one of them can break camp. Now the question is, who starts the season in big league camp? Do you give Brujan the nod, or do you go with Mauricio? Now, Mauricio, again, he's been a Met since 2023. You know what he can do in Citi Field. You know what he's capable of. Brujan, although he came up in the Tampa Bay Rays organization, Vidal Brujan had the unfortunate bad timing of being a prized prospect in their organization the same time as Wander Franco, who has since been banished from Major League Baseball due to some nefarious actions we won't talk about here. But Brujan has bounced around. He's been a bit of a journeyman since first being called up. And for those, and again, like I said, Vidal Brujan, he's played for the Cubs. He's played for Tampa. So for those who are not familiar with Brujan, we'll go over his career here. Last season, he split time between the Cubs and the Braves. But lifetime, Brujan has had 584 at bats, a career 199 average. So that does not leave you confident at all in Brujan. 5 home runs, 48 RBIs, 16 stolen bases, lifetime OPS of 543 in 262 games. Now, however, despite being a career 199 hitter, last season between the Cubs and the Braves, Brujan hit 250 for a 253 average, didn't have any homers, but had 8 RBIs and 2 stolen bases and an OPS of 615. But however, it was a limited sample size. Brujan only having 87 at bats last season. And then we go to the incumbent, Ronnie Mauricio. Actually, no, Mauricio. I'm just getting here. Mauricio. The incumbent, like I said, who last season bat 226, 6 home runs, 10 RBI, 4 stolen bases, a 662 OPS, lifetime 234 average, 8 home runs, 19 RBI, 11 stolen bases for Ronnie Mauricio. Again, Mauricio's been in the organization since 2023, missed all of 24 with a torn ACL, came back in 25. 87 career games for Mauricio, so a smaller sample size than Brujan, but I would argue that Mauricio is the better option of the two. Drew Learned, he has an opinion here. He's gonna say, I'd say we stick with Mauricio because we know he is capable, what he is capable of, and he is younger with a higher upside. And I've got to agree because we've seen both of these guys. These guys are very similar in terms of defense. Of course, Brujan has played third base in his career. Mauricio, third base. He's played games at third base as well. It just comes down to offensively. And Mauricio, younger and has had better offensive numbers. Again, we go back to Vidal Brujan, who was a prized prospect when he was a prospect. But like I always say on this program, prospects will always be exactly what they are until proven otherwise. Prospects. Brujan, despite having a much better year last season, he played in 2021 with the Rays. Had a .077 batting average. 2022, not much better, 163. 2023, not much better, 171. 2024, he goes to the Marlins, 222. And then last season in 2025, 3 different teams he played for: the Cubs, the Orioles, the Braves, 36 games with the Cubs. He hit 222. He was a perfect 1-for-1 in his tenure with the Baltimore Orioles. He played one game, had one at bat, and then with Atlanta hit 268. But again, Brujan just had a streaky year last year, up and down, bounced all over the place. So um, when it comes to Mauricio or Vidal Brujan, I gotta go Mauricio. But now the other question is if you do indeed start the season with Ronnie Mauricio, which I think is the right call in this situation, on the major league roster, on the opening day roster, and say Lindor does come back, does that benefit Mauricio? Because again, Mauricio is young. Do you keep a guy that young on the bench, watching games, maybe come in late as a defensive replacement in certain situations? Or do you send him to Syracuse where he gets everyday reps, everyday at bats, instead of just having him watch big league games from the dugout, which would do nothing for his development? So that's going to be very interesting. But again, the Mets have assured the public every time that they've been asked about it that Francisco is going to be ready for opening day. Lindor is not going to miss any time once the regular season starts. To his credit, Francisco Lindor is a tough guy. This is the same guy we're talking about who broke his toe in May and continued to play through it. Didn't only missed one game with the broken toe last season. So again, he won't be participating in any Grapefruit League games, but he is a presence at camp. So we'll see what happens. But if you ask me, I wholeheartedly, sternly believe Ronnie Mauricio would be the correct player to break camp with on the opening day roster. Brujan, I would more than likely keep him in Syracuse, not get rid of him altogether, because again, Lindor is starting this season off with the broken hand. You never know exactly what is going to happen, especially because he'll be ready right around opening day. So one setback is going to kill his chances of starting the season in Flushing. So that's that. Another position battle that everybody has been talking about throughout camp is what's going to happen in right field. Of course, Juan Soto leaving right field to move to left. Juan Soto going to left field because he's been working at left field. He's going to play left field when the World Baseball Classic opens up. He'll be playing left field for the Dominican Republic team. And he's also previously played left field when he was a member of the San Diego Padres. Center field locked up with Luis Robert Jr. That was evident once Brandon Nimmo was traded, and then the Mets came and brought Luis Robert over. And now the big question is, all right, so we need a left fielder. Soto shifted to left. What's going to happen in right field? So there are 4 candidates in camp who will be battling for right field, and we'll pull them up here as you see the graphic. We have a 4-man position battle for right field. Of course, the incumbent who played most of center field last season, Tyrone Taylor. We have MJ Melendez, who spent last season with the Kansas City Royals. He was actually signed to a 1-year big league deal. We have the person who everybody's going to go ahead and root for, according to what I've seen from fellow Met fans that I've talked to and spoken to and other programs I've seen, and Carson Benj, the sensation, who's been tearing up the minors. No major league experience, however. And then earlier in the week, or late last week, I should say, the Mets went ahead and signed former Yankee, former San Francisco Giant, Mike Tauchman. So 4 guys in camp. Tauchman, of course, signing a minor league deal. So if he does not start this season, in Flushing, he more than likely, if he's willing to take the assignment, will start it in Syracuse. So this is a very interesting one because, again, Tyrone Taylor, again, he wasn't meant to be the everyday center fielder last season, but when Jose Siri got hurt, that opened up the door for Tyrone Taylor. The Mets did not pursue any outfield options. They did not pursue any outfield options. So that's that. MJ Melendez, again, solid defender, decent bat. He played last season with the Kansas City Royals. We'll go over MJ Melendez's numbers. MJ Melendez, uh, in the 2025 regular season, however, injury-plagued season, didn't really play well. Had 60 at bats with the Royals. Hit a not so flattering .083 with one home run, one RBI, OPS of 321. But again, he only played in 60 games. Lifetime Melendez, 1,465 at bats, a 215 batting average, 52 homers, 163 RBIs, 12 stolen bags, lifetime OPS of 685. MJ Melendez has been in the bigs since 2022. Every season of his career spent with the Kansas City Royals, so this is his first opportunity to do something with a different organization than what he is used to. Then we have Carson Benj. Carson Benj, again, is a top prospect in the Mets organization, highly touted, the 23-year-old outfielder who is he's had some at bats in spring training already. Hasn't gotten a hit yet, but that's not indicative of anything. We still have a long spring training to go. But Carson Benj, the one guy that they want to see make it. Last season, 2025, in the minors, Carson Benj jumped around the organization. He was a Brooklyn Cyclone for 60 games. He was a Binghamton Rumble Pony for 32 games. And he was a Syracuse Met for the last 24 games of 2025. So those numbers. Brooklyn, of course, is high A, where Benj hit 302. Binghamton, he hit 317. And then he somewhat struggled in Syracuse at 178. So, he climbed up the ladder and then got to the highest ladder of the minors and couldn't hit for some reason. But again, 23 years old. I don't expect him to. I don't expect the hype on Carson Benj to die down because of a one bad stretch of games in the last part of a season. Again, 24 games in Syracuse AAA for Carson Benj. He's very productive. 37 RBIs in Brooklyn in 60 games. He had 23 RBIs in 32 games in Binghamton, and even 13 and 24 in AAA Syracuse last season. So Carson Benj knows how to drive in runs. Carson Benj is a guy that if I got guys in scoring position on second and third, I want him in the game. And then we go to Mike Tauchman. So Mike Tauchman, this was an interesting invite to camp because I heard that the Mets picked up Mike Tauchman, and I was like, it was already a three-man race, Taylor, Melendez, Benj, and then they bring in Mike Tauchman, which was weird. Of course, Mike Tauchman played a few seasons in MLB with various teams. He went overseas for a little bit and went to the KBO and played for the Hanwha Eagles in 2022, made a name for himself and came back stateside. But Mike Tauchman, last season, Tauchman was a member of the Chicago White Sox, one of the worst teams in all of baseball last season, and actually put up very decent numbers. Mike Tauchman in 335 at-bats last year, where he played in 93 games, had a 263 average, 9 home runs, 40 RBIs, OPS of 756. Career-wise, in 1,550 at-bats, he's a lifetime 246 hitter, 41 home runs, 195 RBIs, career OPS 727. Not bad numbers. He's previously been a member of the Colorado Rockies, the New York Yankees, San Francisco Giants, the Cubs, and the White Sox, as I mentioned. Tauchman, the advantage that he would have over everybody else here, he's the longest tenured player of the bunch. His big league career began in 2017. Tyrone Taylor's was 2018. MJ Melendez 2022. So definitely a veteran presence. He was on those Yankee teams that reached the postseason time after time. So he knows what it takes to get to playoff baseball. I stand corrected. Tyrone Taylor, his career started in 2019. So Talkman has the edge. But again, Mike Talkman, solid veteran. He could be in a spring training locker room or clubhouse, I should say, that's gonna have some young, inexperienced guys in it, like a Ryan Clifford, like a Carson Bench. He could potentially be a mentor to those young guys, teach them some things, and Talkman again, not bad lifetime numbers. Career 248 hitter. Um, Again, I always say that's close to 250. I always say 250 might as well be the modern day 300. Talkman not bad in that sense, but again, it's this is a who's race. As far as what I think, Tyrone Taylor, again, I get it. He was the everyday center fielder because the Mets just simply didn't want to go out and get anybody after Jose Siri got hurt last season. Okay, whatever. I don't think he should be the starting right fielder. MJ Melendez, after the clunker he put up last season, that season of a season, I don't think he should get the nod either, at least not to start, definitely as a backup or a platoon option. Again, Melendez, a guy who, maybe for defense, he's a career 215 hitter. So, it just remains to be seen. So far in spring training, though, he's 1 for 5, batting 200 so far in the Grapefruit League. But Melendez, I wouldn't mind seeing him in a backup role. I feel like Tyrone Taylor's been given too many chances. He basically had all of last season. I was a head scratcher that he was even brought back in arbitration by Stearns and Co. So very surprising move. The Mets they avoided arbitration and signed him to a 1-year deal. Did they do with Taylor? But I think he's run out of chances. He has no minor league option, so if he's not going to make the club, they got to release him outright. He'll probably catch on somewhere, but not as an everyday player. Benj. Here's the interesting thing about Carson Benj. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, but he was hurt in AAA. And I get that, but only 24 games of AAA experience, and AAA is basically major league light, if I should say that. That's like the final step before, before you're ready for the show. And only 24 games, and yeah, he was hurt, but didn't even crack the Mendoza line in those 24 games. But I feel like Benj needs more seasoning. If he starts off the season in the minors and he's tearing it up midway through, or even in the first couple of months, then if an injury happens or you let somebody go, then bring him up. No problem with that. Mike Talkman, I think Mike Talkman should get the crack at right field. I know that's not the popular opinion here, and I may be on an island of my own. I see a lot of comments. I'm going to get to the comments in just a second, so nobody in the comments, please think I'm ignoring you. But I'm going to go ahead and give Mike Talkman the nod. Now, some people are going to say, well, yeah, he was on the White Sox last season. Somebody had to put up decent numbers. But that's not true, because you can have individual greatness in baseball and be on bad teams. Just ask Tony Gwynn. He's in the Hall of Fame. He did it. Not comparing Talkman to Tony Gwynn, of course. But Mike Talkman, again, career 248 hitter. A guy who has been around winning cultures in baseball, something that the Mets are not consistently used to, is winning cultures. So I don't have an issue with if Mike Talkman were to be the guy selected for the right field position. Again, I just feel like Benj, with the lack of experience at the highest level of the minors, plus the struggles he had when he had his cup of coffee there, I don't think that he should break camp as the starting right fielder. And also, like I said with Mauricio, it doesn't make sense to have a guy start in a break camp and start in the season if you're just going to let him sit there and watch games from the dugout when he can be a contributor and get reps at a lower level, and then that'll prepare him for future success. You never want to set any of these guys up to fail. So, uh, I would rather see Mike Talkman and MJ Melendez go ahead and get the nods. Let's see what you guys have been saying here in the comments. Good friend of the show, Clint Alexander, Mets outfield snoozer. Yeah. Kevin Nasta, Tyrone Taylor is number 4. No shot he's starting, even if he tears it up in the spring. I do agree with that. But he also says Brett Beatty will be your starting right fielder. Only reason I didn't include him in this conversation is because Beatty has been getting reps at left field and right field. Sometimes are not symmetrical in how they would be played. So that is that. Beatty also in contention for DH depending on the pitching assignments. So again, I'm not gonna figure Beatty in the argument here. Drew Learn says Taylor and Benj in right field, then Melendez and Beatty can be DH and alternate who plays what days. Then Talkman is a Syracuse guy. Well, Talkman, the way he's figured it, he was signed to a minor league deal, as I said before. It remains to be seen, but again, Talkman does seem like a good veteran presence to have in the clubhouse. Again, a guy who Talkman is a guy who, like I said, he's a career 248 hitter. I'll take it. And he doesn't have such a small sample size. Tony HVAC2 says he, referring to Carson Benj, was injured while playing in Syracuse. He destroys lefties but can't hit righties. And that's something that, he was playing injured, but you just said it. He can't hit righties. More of a reason here to have him back in Syracuse just to get him some seasoning. If for whatever reason Benj tears it up in Syracuse to start the year, then okay, all right. Then we got another conversation here about can he come up in the future. But starting on opening day, no. Kevin Nasta confused. He's one of the best all-around defensive outfielders in baseball and can play all 3 outfield positions with a plus arm at an elite level. And then Tony says Talkman can't hit righties. Benj is legit. Well, they thought Jared Kelenic was legit too, and we saw that happen. What happened with him once he made it to the show. But again, if it was up to me, the decisions would be Talkman and Melendez, and probably one of the others, preferably Taylor could go at DH, or one of them could go at DH. But that's what I'm going to stick to. Again, if you guys, I appreciate you in the comments. If you got any more opinions about this right field situation, feel free to go in the comments as we are live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube here on the Metropolitan Report. Next concern in camp, the Mets have quite a few veteran non-roster invitees, and we'll cue up the graphic and tell you who those are. The Mets have all of these guys signed to minor league deals. Craig Kimbrell, who is very accomplished. We'll get into his accolades in just a second. 2-time World Series champion with the Los Angeles Dodgers, Austin Barnes is in camp, and former Red Sox second baseman Christian Arroyo. All 3 of these guys, veterans who were invited as non-roster invitees to spring training. They're in big league camp trying to make the club. I'll tell you, I really, really, really like Craig Kimbrell in camp. You see, this Mets team a year ago, they had one of the best bullpens in all of baseball. And then just in the second half, the bullpen just blew up, became a shell of themselves, couldn't hold leads, couldn't keep games tied when they needed to, just imploded. The bullpen was a focus of improvement for David Stearns and Steve Cohen in 2025 at the trade deadline, they picked up 3 relievers in Gregory Soto, Ryan Helsley and Tyler Rogers, and none of them were good. Not to mention Reed Garrett and Huascar Brazaban, both of them fell off a cliff last season. And of course, the bullpen was banged up. AJ Minter went down early, as did Max Kranick to Tommy John. So again, the Mets went ahead and got Craig Kimbrell to try to make the club, to see if he has anything left. We're going to pull up Craig Kimbrell's numbers here. Of course, Craig Kimbrell knows what it's like to get to a World Series. He knows what it's like to pitch in pressure cooker situations in high leverage games. Craig Kimbrell, a World Series champion in 2018 with the Boston Red Sox. Kimbrell last season, 14 games, 0-1 record, but a 2.25 ERA. He only pitched in 12 innings in 2025 with 17 strikeouts. Kimbrell last season splitting time between the Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros. 1 game with the Braves, 13 with the Astros. Craig Kimbrell, if you look at the accolades of Craig Kimbrell, this is a guy that I would love to have in my clubhouse, a guy I would love to have in my bullpen. He could teach a lot of these guys a thing or two. You look at lifetime numbers, 56 and 48, 2.58 career ERA, 1,282 strikeouts, 440 career saves, a 9-time All-Star, 2018 World Series champion, National League Rookie of the Year in 2011. From 2012 to 2014, he was the reliever of the year, even though they changed the name of the award every year, from the Rolaids Relief Man Award in the National League to the Delivery Man of the Year to the reliever of the year. Also won the award again in 2017. So he's a 4-time reliever of the year, 4-time save leader in the National League, led the National League in saves every season from 2011 to 2014. So Craig Kimbrell is very accomplished, a high pedigree guy, and I feel he just got a raw deal last season. I mean, the guy, say what you will, 2.25 ERA last season. It's mind-boggling that Kimbrell didn't get another shot with a major league team last season. Again, he split time between the Braves and the Astros, 2 non-playoff teams at that from a year ago. So Kimbrell, I think, will be a good addition. We'll see what he does this spring. But I think that Kimbrell should start the year with the big league club, just to give this bullpen a little bit more of a pedigree. Again, Kimbrell, a guy who knows what it takes to make a deep postseason run, a guy who's lifted up the World Series trophy at the end of October previously, and I think he'll be a great mentor to a lot of the young pitchers in the clubhouse. And then we go to Austin Barnes. So Austin Barnes, very interesting pickup for the Mets, seeing how the Mets have a logjam at catcher. You look at the catchers in the organization, of course, Francisco Alvarez, Luis Torrens, who went yard yesterday in Grapefruit League action, and then even Hayden Sanger in camp. So Hayden Sanger, of course, the Cinderella story from last season. But Austin Barnes, we go to his numbers here. Of course, Austin Barnes was a lifelong LA Dodger, made his MLB debut in 2015. And Austin Barnes, I never thought I'd see him outside of a Dodger uniform. But Austin Barnes, World Series champion in 2020 and in 2024. He was on those Dodger World Series teams. So this is another guy, knows what it takes to get to lift a World Series trophy over his head at the end of October. Austin Barnes, you want to look at his numbers at catcher. Barnes, a lifetime 223 hitter, 35 career homers, 162 RBIs. Not a real power guy, not a real productive guy, but the strength of Barnes is his defense. You're not gonna have Austin Barnes in the lineup and have him be a guy that the opposing pitchers are scared of. But Austin Barnes, known to call a good game. He even had good showings in the 2023 WBC. as a member of Team Mexico. Again, Austin Barnes, a pretty successful guy. He's been in clubhouses with Clayton Kershaw, Mookie Betts, um, the great Shohei Ohtani, among others, Freddie Freeman. So again, this is a guy who some people could say, well, yeah, he's been carried to World Series because he wasn't a staple of their offense or a focus point. But again, you can say that about anybody. Miguel Rojas, um, Gavin Lux, guys like that who won World Series with the Dodgers. But nonetheless, Austin Barnes is in camp. Do I think that Austin Barnes is going to crack the big league roster? That I do not. I think they're just going to evaluate their options and see what they have. Because again, the Mets had Francisco Alvarez injured to start the season last season. Luis Torrens and Hayden Sanger split platoon at catcher early last season, and then Francisco Alvarez struggled, was sent down in the middle of the season back to Syracuse before being brought back up a month and some change later. But I don't see Austin Barnes. There's just no room for him. He would have to absolutely destroy spring training, both offensively and defensively, because, again, he still has Luis Torrens and Hayden Sanger ahead of him to go along with Francisco Alvarez. And then we have Christian Arroyo. Christian Arroyo here. Again, Christian Arroyo, somebody who a big league veteran. However, he has not played since 2023. He started his major league career with the San Francisco Giants in 2017. Ended up playing for the Tampa Bay Rays in 18 and 19 before spending time with the Guardians and with the Boston Red Sox. So, yeah, Christian Arroyo played with the Red Sox. Sorry, the Red Sox, not the White Sox. We played with the Red Sox from 2020 to 2023. Arroyo, a second baseman. Be very interesting to see how he does in camp, considering and what the organization thinks of him, considering that Marcus Semien is the second baseman, and of course, Vidal Brujan is in camp as well. As mentioned before, even though he's the backup shorts, he's a shortstop. He's been the third baseman. But Brujan also can play second base, so that's also going to be interesting here. Lifetime numbers for Christian Arroyo. Lifetime 252 hitter. Average is what you would want it to be at this point. 24 home runs, 120 RBIs, and a lifetime OPS of 693. Again, though, he has not played in the bigs since 2023. Last season, he spent all year in the Philadelphia Phillies minor league system. He was a non-roster invitee to the Phillies organization last season and spent the entire year with AAA Lehigh Valley playing for the Iron Pigs. So do I think Christian Arroyo is going to make this roster? Absolutely not. Even if he decides to tear it up in camp, Mauricio and I would dare say Vidal Brujan are more going to get looked at a little bit more than Christian Arroyo would, especially because this guy has not played a single inning of Major League Baseball going on 3 years now. So Christian Arroyo has been a non-roster invitee to several organizations the last couple of years. Can't crack big league camp. So I hate to say it, but I just don't see where he could fit or if he would even be able to break camp with the big league club. But out of the three, Kimbrel, Barnes, and Arroyo, I'm almost certain Kimbrel will break camp and head to Flushing at the end of March with the big league club. Let's see your comments here. Tony HVAC says, I think only Kimbrel makes it. I do agree. Only way I see them keeping Barnes is if they DFA Sanger. Fair enough option. Hayden Sanger, again, while he's a good defensive guy and has great arm speed throwing from catcher to second base, from home plate to second base, the only way Barnes would make it, and not even in the big league club, because Sanger is more than likely starting in Syracuse. The team is never going to field three catchers. But to stay in the organization, he's got to outduel Hayden Sanger. I don't see that happening either. Kevin Nasta says, Brooks Raley missed a ton. They were all gassed. Yeah, that bullpen was overworked and exhausted last season, but doesn't excuse how bad they were down the stretch in the second half. Don't forget about Renvort, who I think makes it. Ben Renvort, yeah. He's an option as well. Kevin Nasta says Mets are known to sign MLB caliber catcher to send to AAA, helps bring along the staff with MLB experience, gives them an established guy if there's an injury. All fair points. And then Drew Learn finally says Kimbrel is a high risk, high reward. In that case, I'm all for it. Hey, listen, in the last couple of years, I mean, of course, Kimbrel is not the same Craig Kimbrel that won the Rookie of the Year with the Braves or was the lockdown closer with the Red Sox. But I mean, that being said, I still think he has a lot in the tank. He has a lot to offer. So never count out Craig Kimbrel. A couple more things before we get out of here. Bo Bichette. Let's talk about Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette made his Grapefruit League debut as a Met on Saturday when the Mets played the Miami Marlins. And a lot of people here, and you know, there are a lot of Met haters in towns, the Michael Kays, the Keith McPhersons on WFAN, and a lot of people just couldn't wait to see something bad happen. Of course, Bo Bichette last season and prior to this season, his whole career with the Toronto Blue Jays, played shortstop. He's been moved over to third base, had a bad play where a grounder was hit to him, and the Marlins had men on second and third, 2 outs, and Bo Bichette, routine play, you would think, grounder to third, and Bichette threw a rocket to first base essentially, and the ball bounced off the first baseman's glove, and that led to a Marlins run. Of course, the Mets would lose that game 2-1. It's spring training, so who cares if the Mets win or lose? But a lot of people, even people have been sending me clips. Various people have been sending me videos of Bichette working out at third base and saying, "Oh, look, this is you guys' third baseman," because he's not cleanly fielding ground balls to third. But you know what I say to all that? There are quite a few people out there who forget that there about what year are we in now? 2026. So about 22 years ago, there was a one of the greatest shortstops of all time in Alex Rodriguez, who had just come off of an MVP season with the Texas Rangers, went to the New York Yankees, and he was moved to third base because he wasn't going to compete with Derek Jeter. And he struggled in spring training at third base. It's a new position. You got to remember, A-Rod went and moved to third from short, and you know it was a struggle at first, even into the regular season. But we're in spring. We're in February. We're at the end of February. The regular season is not going to start till the end of March. He has time to get it together, folks. And just like how they hammered Alex Rodriguez in 2004 for learning a whole new position he's never played before, they're doing the same thing to Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette has not played an inning until of third base until now. And this is what we're doing here. We are criticizing a man who signed a contract to play a different position than the position he's played his whole career. I don't understand it. Meanwhile, the man is a hitting machine, hits for average, hits for power, and people want to focus on because he whiffed the ground ball and threw a ball so hard the first baseman couldn't get it. Who cares? Because if the Mets make the postseason and they get to October and Bo Bichette becomes a hero, what happens in spring training now is irrelevant. So everybody just needs to lay off the Bo Bichette slander, lay off the Bo Bichette criticism. He made one bad play in an exhibition game. Exhibition. Do you know what exhibition means? Exhibition means the game does not count. It's a scrimmage. It's a practice, whatever you want to call it. The game does not count. So for those of you saying, "Oh, Bo Bichette stinks," the Mets should have got a real third baseman and all this, that, and the third. Shut it. I don't want to hear it. The Bo Bichette criticism is not warranted. You know why the Bo Bichette criticism is not warranted? Because, again, we're talking about a guy similar Now, granted, I'm not calling Bo Bichette and Alex Rodriguez in the same caliber of player. Bichette has never won an MVP award, let alone two before the switch. But you guys criticizing Bo Bichette is the same guy who last season for the Blue Jays had an average of 311, 18 homers, 94 RBIs, OPS at 840, lifetime a 294 hitter, 111 home runs, 437 RBI, lifetime OPS 806. Why are we badgering this guy? Again, it was his first inning played, well, the second inning he ever played at the position in a meaningless spring training game with run prevention specialist Carl Edwards Jr. on the mound for the Mets. Make it make sense. I'm not going to be quick to jump down Bo Bichette's throat and say, move this guy off third, put Brett Beatty back, put Mark Vientos back in the spot, and let's move on. No. Like I said, Alex Rodriguez moved from shortstop to third base in 2004, had a horrible defensive spring training, and became one of the most productive Yankees from 2004 to about 2010. And ended up being a major key cog in the machine in a World Series run. So you could save that. And the guy passed the initial struggles up until maybe April of that year or May. Learned third base and never looked back. So just give Bo time. We're going to go to the comments here. Tony HVAC says, we didn't sign Bo for his glove. We signed him because he is one of the best hitters in the game and very scary with runners on first and second. With runners on and 1 and 2 outs. Yep, that's true. Kevin Nasta says, the play has to be made by the first baseman. That's not on Bichette. Also true. I don't know why they're hammering Bichette for that. Tony HVAC says, great show, Al. Keep them coming. Absolutely. We'll be here every Friday with a new episode. Just the snowstorm and Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago threw everything off, but that's a different story. And then finally, Kevin Nasta says, Todd Zeal signed with the Mets to play first base after playing third base for 7 seasons. That team went to the World Series. That they did. So, again, Bo Bichette, I don't want to hear any slander about how this guy is not cut out for third base. I don't want to hear it. Drew Learn says, thank you for a great show. Love hearing your ideas. You are very welcome, Drew. Appreciate your support. Make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, you hit the subscribe button. That way, every time we have a new show, you will be the first ones to know. And yeah, so here we are. Last thing before we get out of here, Steve Cohen addressed the media a couple of days ago, was asked about if there will ever be a captain for the Mets. He said as long as he owns a team, there's going to be no captain. How do I feel about that? There's going to be no captain as long as Steve Cohen is the owner of the Mets. I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like a captain is important, even though captaincy is fading around Major League Baseball. There are only 2 captains amongst all of the big league clubs right now. Aaron Judge is the captain of the New York Yankees, and Salvador Perez, the captain of the Kansas City Royals. No other team has a captain. Some people argue you don't need a captain. It's the collective sum of the parts. And you know what? Everybody was saying, oh, well, Francisco Lindor is the default captain. A lot of people expected after David Wright's retirement ceremony that Francisco Lindor was going to get the C on his chest. That did not happen. But yeah, I don't buy into the notion that the team needs a captain. Again, you have great clubhouse guys in every clubhouse that step up and that lead by example. I think Juan Soto was one of them. Juan Soto was quoted as saying last year he felt Starling Marte, of all people, was a great locker room leader and could have been a captain. So I don't necessarily think that you need somebody with a C on their chest, on their jersey, to let people know who is the clubhouse leader. You can have or it could be a group effort, like I said. So I don't think Francisco Lindor is bothered by the notion that there needs to be or there isn't going to be a captain. So Steve Cohen, I mean, he doesn't want to elect a captain. That's his business. Do the Mets necessarily need it? No. Although it's kind of sad that nobody will ever join the ranks of David Wright, Keith Hernandez, or Gary Carter ever again, or John Franco, the only four previous team captains in the history of the Mets organization. But Uncle Stevie says no captaincy while he's the owner, and I mean, hey, the players publicly have not bit back. I don't think anybody takes offense to it, and I sure don't. Last little tidbit before we get out of here. Brandon Nimmo was recently interviewed by Will Salmon of The Athletic. Will Salmon asked him about how it feels to be a mentor to Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter. And then, amongst other things, he asked him about his Mets exit. Of course, Nimmo had the no trade clause. He waived his no trade clause, and he revealed that David Stearns told him that he was not being shopped around, that the Rangers contacted him and asked about Brandon Nimmo, which Chris Young of the Rangers front office confirmed. That is a true story. When he had conversations with Steve Cohen prior to waiving the no trade clause, it was also revealed that Nimmo was told that he was loved in the organization, but that it was just they wanted to get a youth movement in the outfield. Nothing wrong with that either. Nimmo was very complimentary, said he doesn't have any bad blood with Cohen or Stearns or anybody in the Mets organization. Also, to add to this, Nimmo was asked about rumors of him and Francisco Lindor not getting along. He was very complimentary of Lindor, said there was never a personal issue in the clubhouse. So for all of you trying to stir the pot of did Francisco Lindor and Nimmo not get along over politics, Nimmo said there was never an issue between himself and Francisco Lindor. He wasn't upset that he was never made captain. He was asked about that. So Brandon Nimmo cleared the air. He never had an issue with the Mets. He never had an issue with Francisco Lindor. He says the main reason of waiving his no trade clause was he felt that with the organization telling him that they wanted to give a younger player, namely Carson Benj, a chance to compete for that outfield spot, he felt that he wouldn't be as big of a part of a team as he had been. He felt that either he was going to be platooned to DH or not even be in the lineup that much at all. You can't blame him. These guys are professional athletes at the end of the day. A lot of these guys would not be complacent just collecting a check to ride the pine in the dugout. So I don't blame him. So Brandon Nimmo, a classy guy, always been a classy guy. I'll miss Brandon Nimmo. But Brandon Nimmo, again, very complimentary of the Mets organization. There was no messy or nasty fallout or nasty ending to his Mets tenure. And I wish Brandon all the best. Hopefully, if the Mets do get to the World Series, we don't see the Rangers in the World Series, because then I will not wish Brandon Nimmo the best. But Brandon Nimmo, again, clearing the air with Will Salmon of The Athletic. If you are subscribed to The Athletic, I recommend reading that article. It was a very insightful one. We'll get to the comments before we get out of here. Kevin Nasta, in regards to the captaincy, 28 teams don't have a captain. I did mention that. Only Salvador Perez and Aaron Judge are captains in Major League Baseball. He also says the leaders step up. They don't need to see. That is true and correct. And then Fuqua Johnson says, hey, Alfred, I love your show. I appreciate you, Fuqua. I appreciate your support. It means the world to me. So, folks, we're going to get out of here. If you are in the Northeast, primarily in the New York City area, stay safe, stay inside, stay warm. We will be back with another edition of the Metropolitan Report. This weekend, we'll be bringing you some more coverage, some more spring training stuff. Got a couple of surprises for you guys as well, so stay tuned for that. I am Alfred Parsar Jr., and once again, thank you for watching the Metropolitan Report. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you like this show, if you like the content and like what you see, and we'll catch you later. Let's go Mets.